What's up everybody, Brian Wagner, Street Muscle Magazine here, actually talking about our newest LSX Magazine project, the Swedish Meatball. Well, what is this project, Swedish Meatball? It is a 1994 940 Volvo Wagon. Now, what kind of made me choose this car to build? Well, the Volvo Wagons are always kind of cool things. I've always dug them, always a wagon guy, I liked them. And seeing these things back in the day on the racetrack, in some of the European racing series, kind of, it stuck with. Come to find out that these cars were a executive level cars, so they are fancy dancy from Volvo. And the 940 is actually one of the last rear-wheel drive cars that Volvo put out. So again, makes it perfect candidate for what we're gonna do to the car. What does that mean exactly? Well, this car is going to get a nice little 5.3 liter LS single turbo with a 6-speed. Yep, we are saving the stick with this car, baby. Let's take a little look-see here at the car. Picked this car up down in North Carolina, found it on Facebook Marketplace, checked all the boxes of what I was looking for. Just a simple, clean car, no real mods to it. Already had some BMW wheels. Not a big fan of the headlight situation there. That's going to get drastically fixed, but inside the car, we'll take a look at that real quick here of the Meatball, and pretty much all there. Kind of got some things we're gonna need to clean up, but again, not too worried about some of that. Back seats just good to go, plenty of room back there, a lot of fun, a lot of room for activity. Speaking of room for activities, we'll cover this a little bit later, but would you look at that? Yeah, we already pulled the engine out of the car. It was already hurting pretty bad, but decent amount of space in here that we're going to fill up real quick with a V8 amongst other things. I think that poor transmission tunnel is going to be violently altered. AC, going to really try to keep that in the car as well. Think we might have to make some changes to the core area to kind of get that to how we need it. We'll be working with Big 3 Racing on this build. They're stoked to kind of help out with us and what we're going to do, but it'll definitely be interesting to kind of make everything fit here. So let's go ahead and head inside the shop and let's take a look at some parts and talk about what we're going to be putting in the car.
All right, well, now that you've kind of got the idea of Project Swedish Meatball, seen the car, what we're doing to it, whatnot, let's talk about what's actually going into the car. Now, one of the cool things about this build is that we're going to be really showing you everything that we do, no secrets, anything like that. And we're getting a lot of these parts that you can get them at Summit Racing. So anything that we're using is readily available, easy to find. Now, to kind of kick things off here, the first thing we're going to look at is our Brian Tooley Racing stuff. To cinch together the top end, we're using one of their cam kits. It comes with camshaft, all the stuff you need to install it. Great all-in-one part. We're also using one of their equalizer intakes to make sure we're getting all that boosted air where we need it to be. Now, we're also using a set of their valve covers as well to make sure that everything looks pretty and we keep everything covered up nicely. And then we're also using one of their complete rocker sets as well. So it's a total Brian Tooley top end for the engine. Now, Silver Sport Transmission, working with them to everything behind the engine. We got with them and they're getting us one of their kits that includes a Tremec transmission, McLeod clutch, whole setup with that, bell housing, one of their shifters, everything you need from basically the back of the engine to the drive shaft. So awesome to get, again, everything all in one place, everything that we need. Now, Holley, we work with them to kind of build out our E85 fuel system, what we need. We also got one of their oil pan kits as well to make sure that we're going to be able to have the proper swap clearances to fit the LS53 into the Volvo. We're using all of Holley's fuel pumps, 2 of them, to work inside the OEM Volvo fuel tank, Earl's fittings, Earl's hoses, some of the regulators, everything we need for that. Now, other part of the fuel system is going to be a fuel injector clinic set of their injectors that are set up for E85 to hit our horsepower goal, which can be upwards of 800 horsepower, depending on how much we're going to turn up, 600 to 800 horsepower. So we'll be working with that a little bit later. To cinch everything together with the engine, we're also working with ARP and their full set of hardware. I'm talking everything outside and inside the engine, head studs, main studs, bolting all the accessories on, everything they have to offer. Pumping oil inside the engine, we worked with Melanie to get one of their high volume oil pumps to make sure that we're getting the right oil flow for our turbo setup to keep everything fed and happy. Now, since this is a swap that's a little bit out of the ordinary, we got in contact with ICT Billet and they got us all of their bracketry to get all of our accessories on the engine. We're actually going to go into a cool article with them about what it takes to kind of figure out an oddball swap, so that'll be really cool to go with that. We are going to be using a fast throttle body, one of their new drive-by-wire big mouth 102mm throttle bodies to go on the Browning Thule intake to, again, help keep all the air flowing where we need it to flow. Performance Distributors is providing the spark. We're using their Sultan of Spark coils as well as their live wire spark plug wires. Here's where things get interesting. To again kind of keep this engine as simple as possible, we got a hold of Summit and we're using their Pro LS rotating assembly. Really cool there because they sent us everything that we need to get the engine set up for the bottom end, so there's no guesswork. You know, it's rated I think up to 1200 horsepower, so we're gonna have plenty of strength in that bottom end. That's our crank rods, pistons, bearings, everything that we need from Summit all in one kit. So that's super cool to have that kind of setup. Giffen's Performance is getting us the mounts to mount the engine in the car. Great one-stop solution there. And then also we're getting from Summit their complete setup for our turbo system. So that means we're using their 76mm turbo, wastegates, blow-off valves, piping, everything. So that kind of makes it convenient to have all that stuff kind of all in one place, all the parts we need. And we're going to document everything that we do on this build so you can see what goes into it and the parts we used, how we used it, if you want to replicate this engine, because this engine is a great setup. We wanted to do something that was very drivable, very streetable. It's not a total, you know, max effort build. It's not a very sloppy build. It is all new stuff that is really kind of, if you wanted to build as close to as you could an OEM Turbo 5.3, that's kind of what we're doing with this. So with that said, you've seen the parts, you've seen the car. Now look as much as you can on LSXMagazine as we start to cover what it takes to LS swap and build Project Swedish Meatball.